So we are reviewing those labs again. pH is 7.35, 7.45. PCO2 is 35 to 45. HCO3 is 22, 26. Now that we've gotten this right, the first lab you have to check in any acid-base case that you'll get in any board exam is the patient's pH. The first lab. I said we are going to learn just 3 labs and we'll be able to solve 99% of the cases, right? So the first lab you want to learn is pH. pH is less than 7.35 acidic. pH is more than 7.45 alkalotic. What I want you to do is make little arrows and write down half of your answer. As soon as you get the issue of pH right, you've gotten 50% of your acid-based questions correct. 50% is correct. If you get your acid-based question like pH 7.35 and below, or below 7.35 is acidotic, you've gotten 50% of the question correct. Okay, now, after you get your pH, the next lab I want you to look at is the CO2, because there's something unique. If you get pH right and you get your CO2 right, you are done. Because it is the CO2 which will even encourage you, should I bring in HCO3 or not? What do I mean? If the CO2 is less than 35, we are learning that the patient is alkalotic from the CO2 perspective, right? If CO2 is more than 45, we are learning that the patient is acidotic from the CO2 perspective. So again, I told you we are just going to use arrows. If you draw your pH arrow and the pH arrow is going up, okay, say, so for an example of a pH arrow going up is say pH of, let me say 7.62. That is pH is up, right? And then you get a CO2 level, and that level is say 22. So I have a question. pH of 7.62. Where should the arrow point? Should it point up or down? Tell me.
Up.
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 Okay, good.
Up.
PO2 level of 22. Should the arrow point up or down?
Going down.
Going down.
Okay, good.
Opposite to pH.
So when you get your pH of 7.62, pH of 7.262, is the patient acidotic or alkalotic?
Alkalotic.
Alkalotic. Okay, good. So the first thing you need to do is, as soon as you see your pH of 7.62, you write it down. This patient is alkalotic. Okay. Now, I am saying something. If the arrow for the CO2 is pointing in the opposite direction,
Alkalotic too.
then you already know that your pH is 7.62. The patient is alkalotic, and the CO2 is pointing in a different direction. And CO2 is controlled by breathing. So even without any hesitation, just write that your answer is respiratory
alkalosis.
Simple. Doctor, did you get what we just did?
Question, please.
Okay, wait. Okay, good. I'm expecting this to happen. Okay, let's go. I'm going to create a new PowerPoint slide, okay? And then we are going to do it again. I'll call it tests. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this.
Before the test, please, Dr. Brownie, can I please ask a question?
Ask your question.
I get the basics right, but where I'm confused now is about the arrows. So when you say arrow pointing upwards or downwards, are you talking about the value or acidosis and alkalosis by up and down?
Don't worry, let's try this with this, okay? So I said that the pH of this patient was what? 7.62, right? Right? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And then what is the normal pH?
7.35 to 7.45.
Okay. So in this
35, Dr. Brownie.
What?
Dr. 35, you put 7.5.
Okay,
7.35.
7.35.
Yes,
Sorry.
Can I
35.
request one thing? People can write the answers in the chat box so that
Sure,
other people
sure.
can put
Okay,
that.
so in this case, pH, is pH arrow pointing up or down?
Up.
Up. Okay, let me look for an arrow which is pointing up and then use it. Okay, okay, good. So pH is pointing up. Okay, please, can you see it? Okay, good. Now, I said that the bicarbonate is, no, the carbon dioxide is CO2 is 22, right? What's the normal range for CO2?
22 to
35 to
26.
45.
35 to 45.
45 to
Oh, yeah.
45. 35, 45.
Okay, good. Let's today, I will spend all the time so that you get it. I'm not going to run through this class at all. So this is it. So in reality, this is what you are getting. Please, the doctor who asked the question, are you on the same page with me now?
Yes, it's
Good.
with regards to the value
Okay,
and
good.
not
So
whether
it's-
it's acidotic or
no.
alkalotic.
But the first thing you have to ask yourself is the pH. So there's a pH. Does this put the patient in acidotic mode or alkalotic mode? The pH alone. 7.62. Is the patient acidotic or alkalotic?
Alkalotic.
Alkalotic. Okay, good. Now, this is the point. So the first thing you have to say is this. When you see a case like this, okay? Let me put this texter here. So my pH puts me in acidosis. Okay? Now, my next step is CO2. If CO2 is pointing in the opposite direction of pH, the arrow, and I know that CO2 is regulated by the lung, I'm looking for that opposite. As soon as I see that CO2 is opposite, my
Is
answer is
alkalosis
simple.
not
It's
acidotic, Dr.
alkalosis.
Bonnie?
It's alkalosis, Dr. Bruni.
What do
Yeah,
you say?
first one.
7.6.
The
7.62.
pH.
The pH
Yes.
is alkalosis, right?
Sorry, alkalosis. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
Sorry. That means the class is active. Sorry. Okay, so the first thing I'll say that this patient is in an alkalotic state. Now, the CO2 is pointing in the opposite direction. So as soon as CO2 is pointing in the opposite direction, I don't even consider HCO3. Don't consider HCO3. Throw it away. If CO2 is pointing in the opposite direction, forget about HCO3. Don't look at HCO3. Good. So that means that this patient is in respiratory alkalosis. In this situation, don't consider HCO3. Forget about it. Throw it away. Throw away HCO3. Simple. Don't use it. You don't need it. So if I give you HCO3 value, you don't even need to consider it. It's just there to cause confusion for the examinee. Okay? It's just there to cause confusion to the examinee. Doctors, please, are you following me? Are you following
Yes.
me? I don't want to
Yes,
rush
yes,
this.
yes.
I want to.
Yes,
Yes,
doctor.
doctor. Yes,
Okay.
doctor.
Okay. So
Sure.
the basic point I'm making here is this. If pH and CO2 arrows go in totally different directions, don't use HCO3. That is our rule. Yeah. Somebody says they stop dating, so no ring. Exactly. And the ring is the HCO3. I like that. So, pH says I'm going to sleep in a bedroom. Carbon dioxide says I'm sleeping in the basement. Game over. pH is going in the north. CO2 is going in the south. Game over for that marriage. HCO3 does not have any role there. Dr. Ami, before you ask your question, now let's use another slide and see another thing. pH of 7.31 and the normal range is 7.35 to 7.45. Should my arrow point up or down?
Down.
Down.
Acidosis.
Down.
Okay, good. CO2 of 60.
Up.
Up.
Should my arrow point up or down?
Up.
Up.
Down.
According to this page, is this patient acidotic or alkalotic?
Respiratory acidosis.
Acidosis.
No.
Acidosis.
Before we even start shouting so that people get confused.
Blow your
Acidosis.
Is this patient acidotic or
Acidosis.
alkalotic? Beautiful. Okay. So now,
Acidosis.
my next
Question,
point is
please.
that wait, please, doctor, please wait. My next point is that this patient is acidotic. That's the first thing I want to say.
Mhm.
Acidosis. Now, the CO2 arrow, is it going in the same direction or is going the opposite direction?
Opposite.
Opposite direction.
direction.
Opposite.
Okay.
Hmm.
So since it's going in the opposite direction, what will I say? This patient is acidotic, but it is respiratory what?
Respiratory acidosis.
Acidosis.
Respiratory acidosis.
Who had a question?
No more question.
Okay, let's try another one. We will try examples today so that when
Please,
we
I
get.
have a question.
Okay, please ask your question.
Thank you, sir. So does that mean whenever the arrows go into different, into opposite direction, it's always respiratory? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. The arrows, that is pH and CO2. That is the first thing you need to get. That's what I'm saying. HCO3 is only the marriage counselor. He comes in, if you yourself, you know that these two people, I'll come to that. And I like that marriage analogy. Let's do something again. pH of 7.65. Please, this time, type your answer. Don't shout it, okay? And the pH level is 7.35 to 7.45. And then CO2 is, what do I do about this? CO2 is, say, 31. Please type your answer.
Respiratory alkalosis.
No, please type your answer. So, the first question I want to ask is this patient alkalotic or acidotic?
Alkalotic.
Alkalotic.
Alkalotic, beautiful. Next one are the arrows for, this is just two values, arrows for CO2 and pH. Are they same or different directions?
Different direction.
Opposite.
And we said that as soon as pH and CO2 are going in two different directions, what is our answer? It is respiratory. And then we add the pH. So this patient, is the patient alkalotic? Like what's your final diagnosis? Respiratory.
Respiratory alkalosis.
Alkalosis.
Doctors, please. Are you getting it? Are you getting it?
Yes. Yes.
Good. So who can tell me the rule of thumb here? So far as respiratory acidosis and respiratory alkalosis are concerned, because with just two arrows, now you can tell respiratory acidosis, respiratory alkalosis. Who can tell me? I want somebody to raise the hand and just explain it in simple language. Simple language. Please. Who will help me? Who will help me? Dr. Rupijit. Let's go.
Yes, Dr. Burning. So so I said that to determine whether the condition is acidotic or alkalotic, we first look at the pH value, and then as per the rule of thumb pertaining to the arrows, if the arrows are in the opposite direction, we are supposed to ignore looking at the bicarbonate level whatsoever, and then we can conclude that it would be a respiratory condition based on the pH value. It could be acidotic or alkalotic.
Good. Okay. So now that is correct. Now the issue comes in if the arrows are going in the same direction. Okay? If the arrows are going in the same direction. If the arrows are going in the same direction, that is when we introduce HCO3.